He cornered her, pulled out a pair of scissors, said it was a joke. She didn't laugh. He tried to cut her dress in front of everyone. But what he didn't know? She was trained, not just to fight, but to end it fast. It happened on a Thursday afternoon. School had just let out and the hallway was humming with voices, footsteps, laughter, the usual. But right near the east stairwell, just outside the lockers where the camera angles didn't reach, a group of kids gathered in a semicircle. One of them, a boy named Tyler, had been pushing limits for weeks. Cruel pranks, harsh words. That day, though, he took it too far. He thought it would get a laugh. He thought she wouldn't react. But when he stepped forward, scissors in hand, and tried to slice the back of her dress, she didn't freeze. She turned around, and that was the first mistake he made. What he didn't expect was how quickly it would all fall apart. Sophia had been quiet most of her life. Her teachers described her as polite. Her classmates saw her as reserved, maybe even shy. But that quiet masked something else entirely. After a traumatic incident at home 3 years earlier, her parents enrolled her in self-defense classes. At first, she hated it. She cried during her first sparring session, but she didn't quit. She trained, week after week, learning not just how to defend herself, but how to stay calm when everything else wasn't. That Thursday, those years of silent training paid off. When Tyler reached for her, everything slowed. Her hands didn't tremble. They locked around his wrist. She twisted, dropping his hand low, sending the scissors clattering across the floor. The crowd gasped, but she wasn't done. He lunged again, this time out of embarrassment, trying to grab her by the arm. She sidestepped, planted her foot, and threw him flat on the linoleum. The air left his lungs in a wheeze that echoed off the walls. A teacher arrived seconds later. Everyone was still frozen in place, except Sophia. She was standing tall, breathing steady. She didn't say a word. What happened next shocked the entire town. Before we dive deeper, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss any of our upcoming videos. I remember the second after my fist hit the floor, that electric silence, everyone frozen, breaths held, the whole hallway holding its breath with me. I felt something inside me snap, not in a bad way, but like a wire suddenly connected. Fear, yes. Pure, fierce fear that this moment would define me forever. But layered over that, strength I didn't know I had, relief that I hadn't run, a sort of shocked clarity. I saw Tyler's eyes flicker from rage to disbelief, like he never expected resistance, much less defeat. His kindness charm shattered, and for a moment I felt pity before instinct pushed it away. I was shaking, heart pounding, scared of what would come next. But I didn't back down. I stayed rooted as teachers rushed in. In that breath I felt exposed, like everyone finally saw through the quiet girl they assumed I was. They saw the grief I carried, because my dad had died just months before, left me raw. Moved us across state lines, tried to start fresh. School felt heavy, like walls pressing in, judgment waiting for me to slip. Tyler must have seen that too. Picked the new girl, sensed vulnerability, and thought it would be easy to humiliate me again. His scissors were just a prop in his performance. So why then did he come in with that look of startled regret when I didn't collapse? And why did the whispers start? Talk about the new girl who fought back, who stood her ground even when all she wanted was to disappear. Days after, I found myself replaying the moment. The dull clang of the scissors, my knees locking as adrenaline kicked in, the texture of the floor under my hands as I pushed him down. I heard my own breath in my ears in sync with everyone else's. And that question echoed. Why had Tyler done it? Was it jealousy? Pain? Something darker I couldn't name? Then came the man. 2 days later, he walked into school. Tall, quiet, eyes like he'd carried grief himself. I didn't notice him at first, just the hush he brought into the principal's office. He never raised his voice. He just said he was there for Sophia Carter. That was me. My chest hitched. Suddenly, the hallway fight snapped into context. This man asked nothing, but watched everything. My cuts, bruises, binocular vision, sweat, damp hair, the edges of my panic. He didn't scold. He didn't promise anything. But when he left, something inside me shifted. Like he picked up my pieces and whispered without words that they mattered. Who was he? And how did he know? What did he change by just showing up? These are the real questions that keep pulling me back to that hallway, to that moment. Why did Tyler choose me? What did I teach myself in that standoff? And who was that man who moved the ground beneath my feet without ever touching me? Stick around. I've held this secret in my bones for years, and now it's time to tell the full truth, step by raw step. I didn't tell nobody at first. Not the teachers, not the counselor they sent into the room with her soft voice and too patient smile. Not even my mama. I just sat there, hands folded in my lap, staring at the corner of the carpet in that tiny office like it was going to tell me how to feel. The truth is, I ain't had the words yet. Not because I didn't know what happened. I knew exactly what happened. I knew what he tried to do, and I knew how I stopped him. But putting it into words, saying it out loud, that felt like opening something up that might never close again. That hallway, those seconds, they stayed in my bones. Still do, honestly. And the thing people don't get is, it wasn't just about the scissors, or the way the kids laughed before they realized it wasn't funny. It was about everything that came before. The silence, the buildup, the way Tyler looked at me from across the lunchroom for weeks, like he was waiting, like he had already made up his mind. When I first got to Lincoln High, I didn't want attention. I was the new girl from Atlanta, moved in the middle of sophomore year, 2 months after we buried my daddy. Cancer took him slow, but the silence after, that hit fast. Mama packed us up after the funeral, said we needed a fresh start. But you can't run from grief, not really. It follows you like a second shadow, like it got your name written in its palm. We moved into a small apartment near the train tracks, the kind where the walls are thin and the neighbors don't talk much. Mama picked up 2 jobs, day shift at the clinic, night shift at the gas station. She barely had time to sleep, and I barely had time to see her. I ate frozen dinners and kept to myself. School felt loud, like the kind of loud that makes your skin buzz. I started reading at lunch, tucked into corners, pretending the pages could shield me. And most days they did, until Tyler noticed. He wasn't just some kid, he was the kid. Tyler Redding, football star, class president. That boy had teachers grinning when he walked into a room. He moved through the school like he owned it, like nothing ever touched him. And maybe it didn't. 'Cause folks didn't ask questions when he got too close, when girls flinched, when jokes turned sharp. Nobody wanted to ruin the golden boy's image. But me? I saw him clearly. I saw the way his smile dropped when nobody was looking, the way his hands lingered just a second too long. And one day in the bathroom, this girl I barely knew, lashes thick with mascara and eyes hollow like she'd seen too much, she leaned in and whispered, "He likes breaking quiet girls. Don't let him pick you." I didn't respond, just nodded and left, but her words clung to me. Quiet girls. Girls who don't make noise. Girls like me. The thing is, my daddy used to say, if the day comes, don't run, finish it. He was a Marine, built like stone and soft only when nobody was watching. He taught me how to hold my stance, how to read a person's center of gravity, how to end a fight fast and without hesitation. But he also taught me when to walk away. Said strength wasn't about fists, it was about choice. And for a long time, I chose silence. I chose books. I chose disappearing. But Tyler took that from me. Or tried to. I remember the air that day. Stale with heat, buzzing with hallway chatter. I was walking slow, clutching my notebook, when I heard the click of footsteps behind me. Then laughter. Then the scrape of scissors. And in that moment, everything in me went still. I felt my daddy's voice like a drum in my chest. If the day comes, I didn't run. I don't remember deciding to grab his wrist. My body just moved. Years of drills kicked in. I twisted, threw him down, and for one breathless second it was just me and the sound of his shock slamming against the floor. And then came the stares. The silence that followed wasn't peace. It was loaded. Like everyone in that hallway was trying to calculate what they just saw. And then they looked at me different. Not like a victim, but like something they didn't understand. 2 days later, he came. That man walked in wearing a suit that didn't match the school's easy rhythm. He didn't smile, didn't need to. He asked for me by name, and the way the front desk lady's face changed, you'd think he had credentials no one could question. He sat across from me in the counselor's office. Didn't ask what happened, just listened. Like he already knew, or maybe like he wanted me to choose when to open up. And I did. For the first time, I told someone. Every breath, every crack, every time I shrank in a room full of eyes. I didn't cry. Not then. But I felt something shift. Like maybe, just maybe, someone finally saw me. He left without promising anything. Just gave me a card and said he worked with girls like me. Survivors, fighters. And I held onto that card like it was gold. That's when the question started. Why'd Tyler target me? What did he see in me that made him think I'd fold? And what changed after I stood up? See, people like Tyler don't get that strength, don't always show up loud. Sometimes, it's quiet. Still, sitting in the back of the class reading books with torn spines. Strength is years of grief compacted into stillness. And when it erupts, it changes everything. After that hallway, rumors started. Some said I overreacted. Others said I made it up. Tyler's friends tried to spin the story, make him the victim. But truth don't bend easy, especially not when there's 20 kids who saw it happen and couldn't unsee it. And that man? The one who came in without saying much? Turned out he ran a non-profit for girls who'd been hurt, physically, emotionally. He started checking in, sent resources, made sure I didn't vanish under the weight of what happened. Because that's the danger. When you don't get loud, they try to erase you. But I didn't vanish. I spoke, I wrote, I stood up, not just in the hallway, but in rooms where decisions were made. I told the school board my story. I made them listen. And now I'm here, years later, sharing this with you, because somebody out there is walking the same halls I walked, keeping their head down, hoping no one notices. And if that's you, if you're watching this from a dorm room or your car or sitting on your bedroom floor trying to breathe through the weight, I see you. I was you. And I need you to hear this. You are not the quiet they think you are. You're the storm they don't see coming. I remember how it began. Not with the scissors, but with a brush of shoulders in the hallway. The way Tyler's hand grazed my arm when he walked past, as if testing boundaries I hadn't even acknowledged. My heart would tighten in my chest, a coil of warning I couldn't explain. Then came the jokes he made within earshot of friends, half laugh, half accusation, each one sharp enough to slice my confidence smaller. I felt my pulse pound in my ears. Every step I took became a calculation. Will he be waiting at the lockers? Will he block my path again? It wasn't until that day after class in the bleachers by the end of the hall near the old trophy case that things escalated. The air felt thick, humid. I could smell the sweaty cleats someone stored nearby. Tyler approached with that slick, practiced grin, filming his friend's TikTok on his phone. I kept my gaze low, praying he would pass me by. But he paused. He shifted closer like an animal circling prey, voice low enough that only he and I could hear. Then he did it. He pulled out a pair of scissors and held them level with the hem of my dress. My chest locked, and the silence around me swelled until I could hear my own heartbeat. In that moment, I felt my father's voice echo. Don't run. Finish it. I saw not scissors, but a choice. Time slowed. I felt every bead of sweat in my shirt, every uneven tile beneath my feet. I shifted my weight, coiled like I was back on the mat. 3 moves. The promise burned into my muscles from years of drills. My hand snapped to his wrist. I spun, dropping his blade-handed arm. I turned his momentum, pushing him forward. The response was immediate. Tyler hit the floor, face first, and I felt the weight of my foot press into his shoulder until he didn't move anymore. The camera on his friend's phone tilted wildly, capturing it all in shaky, haunting footage. I stood up, heart thundering, breaths shaking me. I looked down at him, face bleeding, unconscious, his body sprawled in a way that made me choke on something I didn't name. The hallway spun with scattered students yelling, shuffling, fear crawling back through me. My knees trembled, but I stayed upright. I felt the power of choice, the cost of action. By the time a teacher burst in, I was breathing with icy clarity. Tyler wasn't just humiliated, he was out cold. I felt the world shift on its axis as they called for help, voices cracking with shock and anger. I thought it would stop there, thought the hardest part was over, but I was wrong. As the EMTs carried him out, I found silence slipping back in. They escorted me to the principal's office, hands hovering at my shoulders like I might break without them. I sat in that chair, stiffness locking my body. I watched the door shut behind me, felt its weight the way grief does. Alone again, but not the same. Something inside me had changed, not because I fought back, but because I didn't break. That day, I became more than my silence, more than the quiet girl people overlooked. I became evidence that strength can live in someone who looks soft, but it also cost me. Rumors spun out. Some said I started it, that I went too far. Friends watched me with suspicion. Teachers closed doors a little tighter when I walked in. And Tyler's silence. He never spoke about it, but I saw it in the way his eyes avoided mine. The cafeteria felt colder, the hallways longer. I lost something. Maybe it was innocence, maybe it was belonging. But I gained something I didn't know I needed. The knowledge that power isn't always loud. Still, I could feel eyes on me. The school board meeting with my mom in the audience. The counselor who asked if I was okay like they expected me not to be. The man who'd come 2 days later. It still hurt to remember his calm voice, the strength in his presence. He said, without saying much at all, that what I did mattered, that I hadn't done it wrong. That night I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, replaying every second. The click of the scissors in my ears, Tyler's face hitting the floor, my own pulse pounding against the sheets, and I felt raw, vulnerable, alive. Because I knew I'd chosen my truth over the lies they meant for me. This wasn't the end of the story. It was a fracture point, a break in the timeline. After that, I couldn't hide behind quiet anymore. I started writing. I started talking. I started building something inside me that no accident could break. Something my father planted. Something I learned by standing when I was meant to fall. So keep watching. We're just getting past the edge of the wound. There's more to feel, more to see, more to learn. I felt the tremor under my feet long after the moment in that bleacher hallway. The world shifting on its axis, and I with it. When Tyler's version hit the school grapevine, it was just a prank, his camp claimed. She overreacted, she's violent. Suddenly everyone had their own script. His parents called lawyers. I overheard the whispers. He's just a kid. She went too far. The narrative began writing itself without me. But I stayed silent, letting their words hang in the air while I gathered what I needed inside. When my turn came, I stepped forward with calm, precision. I spoke in the same voice I'd used on the mat. Clear, unwavering. I showed bruises on my wrists where his grip had left marks. I explained my self-defense training, how it rooted me. But I didn't share more. Not yet. I needed to hold something sacred inside, a truth waiting for its moment. Then came the twist I never saw coming. The surveillance footage was missing. The school claimed it had been overwritten, lost in routine. But a girl at school posted a shaky clip on Instagram, the scissors glinting, my arm snapping out, and it went viral. It split the community. Some called me a hero. Others said I'd gone too far, that I humiliated Tyler. Suddenly, this wasn't just about me anymore. It was about what they'd allowed their silence to become. The school board convened. I watched from the audience as whispers buzzed like flies. I was suspended pending investigation. I heard the gasps when someone mentioned the lawsuit Tyler's family was filing. I felt the cold weight of injustice settle over me. They tried to frame it as a school disruption, but I knew what it was, a fight for the right to be safe in my own skin. In the cafeteria, I walked past a bulletin board plastered with supportive hashtags. Someone had scrawled, "Let her breathe." A stranger approached me after class, hand shaking, saying, "Thank you." It was one of the most human moments I've ever lived. It means something when a stranger sees you, not the version they believe you are. Yet the board pushed toward expulsion. They painted me as the dangerous one. My mom cried in the hallways. I stood in front of them, heart heavy, voice steady. I laid out the sequence. I described the fear that anchored my feet, the history that led me there. I did not excuse what happened, but I offered truth. I offered context. I offered ownership of what I did and why. Then the unexpected happened. The community rallied. Teachers spoke in support. Parents wrote letters. That viral clip became a spark, not of outrage, but of reckoning. It exploded beyond school walls. Similar stories sprang up, shared with courage. It reminded me of movements like the Hacher Justice for Kwekwe campaign in South Africa, where a single act brought thousands to look deeper. It proved that one voice, no matter how soft, can carry a weight that topples walls. The school paused. The board voted to delay suspension. Tyler's lawsuit wound through slow legal threads, but more than that, procedures changed. The missing footage was investigated. Policies were rewritten. Counselors got more support. The man who showed up that day, the one who whispered words I could carry, became a mentor through the nonprofit he led, guiding me and others to speak their truth out loud. This aftermath, the investigation, the court of public opinion, the shifting of power, shaped me in ways no single fight ever could. I learned that justice isn't just about proving right and wrong. It's about breaking the cycles that let people like Tyler act without accountability. It's about rebuilding structures so no one else disappears into silence. I don't stand perfect's shadow. I stand believing that your quiet can hold the fire you need, that one moment in a hallway might echo into board meetings and policy shifts, that your fear can be your compass, and that when the world says to hush, you speak anyway. The rest of this journey doesn't end here. Stay close. I'm just beginning to pull back the final layers. And if you're holding something inside, know this: you're not alone. I felt a change in the air the moment Marcus Carter stepped into that boardroom. My older brother, calm, measured, like he carried storms behind his eyes. He didn't speak loud. He didn't need to. He opened a folder stacked with documents, sealed reports, old emails, and laid them before the room, methodical as a surgeon laying out instruments. He introduced himself as a former Army Ranger, but mostly I felt his presence. Quiet, intentional, impossible to ignore. That's when the twist came. 2 years before my incident, another girl had come forward, complaint buried deep in school files, never acted on. Marcus held that sealed complaint in his hand now, asked the board if they remembered it. They shuffled, looked down. He didn't flinch. Then he pulled out letters, 3 sisters, 3 girls, each willing to swear on paper that Tyler Redding had cornered them. Whispered threats no one heard, made them feel helpless. They were kept quiet by fear of his reputation. But here they were, their words solid enough to break years of silence. My own fear found company. My heart pulsed as Marcus read my own statement aloud, every fear, every detail I'd tucked away, the weight in my bones when he pressed the scissors to my dress, the taste of trauma I swallowed whole, the shock that turned into fierce defense. And the board watched it, unguarded. That moment, it wasn't just my words. It was my truth, blazing across that room, carried on the momentum Marcus created. The statement went viral on Facebook. The recording of the hearing rippled across feeds. Hashtags sprang up. She protected herself. People stopped scrolling. People listened. Our story shifted. I wasn't just the new girl who fought back. I was the girl whose brother refused silence, whose community refused erasure. And I was no longer floating in that blur between guilt and fear. I was owning what happened, memory by memory stitched together in front of hundreds, maybe thousands, who now saw me clearly. Then the dam broke. The school board cleared me. No suspension, no expulsion. They pulled Tyler from my classes, pressed for a quiet disciplinary transfer. No ceremony, no pardon, just quiet accountability. His reputation lay in pieces, eyes open to what happens when people stay quiet too long. That room felt different when we left. It buzzed with a new rhythm. I felt my brother's arm brush mine, cool comfort. I felt the stirrings of a public momentum, like a breeze before rain. Justice inching forward, not from a shout but from undeniable truth. My home that night felt changed. I looked in the mirror and saw someone new, someone who walked through fire and kept walking. I thought of my mama's tired eyes full of relief. I thought of my daddy's voice. Finish it. Not run. Finish. And in that moment I understood. Healing wasn't in forgetting what happened. It was in breaking silence, in letting family hold you, in letting truth demand reckoning. This is where our journey steps onto firmer ground. What began as one moment in a hallway became a reckoning, for me, for Tyler, for the school. It demanded courage not just from me, but from everyone around me. And it's not over. I'm still picking up the pieces, rebuilding trust, learning who I am beyond the fight. I'm still lending my voice so others won't have to carry silence alone. Stay with me, because now comes the part where scars teach, where pain fuels purpose, and where the quiet reigns no more. I carried the boardroom's outcome home like a quietly burning ember. Small, insistent, impossible to ignore. I walked through my front door and the hallway felt different. Sunlight filtered through dusty windows, illuminating motes in the air like suspended truths. I felt heavy, lighter, changed. That night I sat on the edge of my bed, the folded note from Daddy in my hand again. The one he wrote years ago before the cancer took his voice but not his wisdom. They'll try to break you. Let them try. I pressed it to my chest, eyes closed, feeling the weight of his hand on my shoulder in memory. In the days that followed, I saw the impact of what happened, not just in headlines or hashtags, but in the eyes of the girls walking beside me in the halls. They no longer looked away. They carried themselves differently, steadier, and because of that I decided to act. I reserved the old gym after school, put up flyers that said simply, Shadow Club, self-defense for anyone who feels unseen. I watched as girls trickled in, curious, anxious, carrying their own quiet fear. I taught them what I'd learned, not to arm them with violence but with awareness. How to plant their feet, how to hold their ground, how to channel strength from loss and grief. We practiced silent steps, deflects, holds, our shadows moving in the hush of the gym lights, rhythms pulsing against the hardwood. Every time someone caught her balance after the first stumble, I felt the tightness in my chest loosen. I remember late nights when I closed the gym door, turning over names in my head, girls I'd never spoken to, now calling me teacher, mentor, sister. I saw something shift, quiet confidence blooming where it once couldn't. I never gloated. I never relived the fight. But I felt the pride of each level gained. From the first successful hold to the courage it took to walk home alone after practice. And I felt Dad's note every time I tucked it back under my pillow. They'll try to break you. It reminded me that this wasn't about revenge. It was about readiness. And what of Tyler? After the hearing, he slipped into his disciplinary transfer with no announcement. His explanation? He slipped and fell. But everyone who witnessed that day, the way his weight hit the floor, the flash of scissors, the fall, knows the truth. They know he picked the wrong girl. I don't carry anger the way the world expects. I carry lessons learned in silence and strength made from fear. I carry Dad's words folded into my daily breaths. Because the last twist in this story isn't about defeat. It's about survival. It's about the quiet becoming unbreakable, the shadow teaching others to stand in the light. And when those lights flicker, we show them how to shine. So if you're watching this, from wherever you are, remember, you may feel small, but your quiet can teach others to roar. The Shadow Club lives because one girl decided to stop hiding, and she never forgot the note under her pillow. I ain't never told this story like this before, not start to finish. Not where every word feels like it's scraping across something tender, something still healing. But some truths, they don't let you sleep until they're spoken. And this one's been sitting on my chest for years like a stone I couldn't move. See, the day Sophia took Tyler down, it ain't just the story of a girl defending herself. It's the story of everything that comes after. The stares, the silence, the sideways whispers in the hallway when folks think you too broken to hear them. That day, when the gym floor swallowed his pride and spilled his blood, something changed in that school. But the world didn't transform overnight. Nah, some people still looked at her like she was the problem, like she was the threat, like maybe they was safer when she was silent. And that broke something in me, because I knew what it cost her to make that choice. I knew what it meant to fight back and still be the one who ends up bruised in 1,000 ways nobody can see. I remember sitting on the edge of my bed that night, her words echoing back in my head. Words she barely spoke aloud, but they lived in the way she moved. Careful, controlled, ready. Her strength didn't come from anger, it came from grief. From watching a man she loved fade slow and painful and still get up every morning and train her like the world wasn't going to give her a second chance if she froze. He taught her how to breathe through fear, how to end it fast. And when Tyler pulled them scissors, she ain't flinch. She remembered. But see, even after that day, the story didn't wrap up clean. There was fallout. Quiet ones don't get to win without paying for it. Her name was dragged through group chats and parent meetings. The school tried to bury the footage like it was just some glitch. Tried to make it seem like she was unstable, unprovoked. But truth don't drown easy, it floats. And when that clip hit Instagram, the story started to shift. Still, it ain't justice just 'cause people online say your name with respect. Sophia had to walk into school the next day with eyes all on her, some proud, some waiting for her to fall again. And she held her head high, but I could tell some part of her had changed, not broken, sharpened. Like a blade that had seen battle and still gleamed. When Marcus showed up, her brother straight out of silence, carrying more facts than the board could bury, that's when folks started listening. Calm don't mean soft. That man walked in like he knew every lie that had ever been told about his sister, and came to collect the truth. With letters, with records, with faces that finally felt safe enough to say, "Me too." And when he read her words out loud in that board meeting, the whole damn town stopped breathing. For the first time, they heard her without interruption. They saw her without fear. And you'd think after all that she'd be angry, loud, vindicated. But she wasn't. She just went back to class, sat at her desk, took notes like nothing had shifted. But everything had. She became something they didn't expect. A quiet kind of legend. Not the kind that glares or boasts, but the kind that sits with her back straight and her silence heavy. Other girls started watching her, sitting a little closer at lunch, asking little questions between bell rings. And that's when the Shadow Club began. No school announcement, no banners. Just a door propped open in the old gym after last bell, and word spread like smoke. Girls who never spoke started showing up, scared, angry, curious. And Sophia? She taught, with patience, with fire, with the kind of purpose that only comes from pain you survived. And those girls? They started walking different, talking different, like maybe this world wasn't going to chew them up without a fight. She didn't teach them how to hurt people. She taught them how to stop being afraid, how to see danger coming and stand their ground, how to hold each other up when the weight got too heavy. And me? I watched it all from the sidelines, proud, quiet, holding my own grief in my chest like an anchor I wasn't quite ready to let go. One night I saw her slip a folded note under her pillow, same one her daddy gave her before he passed. I never asked what it said. Didn't have to, because I could see it in her eyes every time someone tried to test her again. They'll try to break you. Let them try. And as for Tyler, he still tells folks he slipped. Still got people who believe it. But anyone who was there that day, anyone who heard the scissors drop, who saw him laid out on the linoleum like a bad decision finally caught up, they know the truth. He didn't slip. He picked the wrong girl. Now I gotta ask you, do you think Sophia went too far? Or did Tyler get what he deserved? Drop your thoughts below. We want to hear from you. And if you believe in standing up to bullies, hit that like button and share this story with someone who needs to hear it. Somebody out there is still learning how to fight with their feet planted and their spirit unshaken. Maybe this helps them stand a little taller.